So, as a coaster enthusiast, I like to rank my favorite roller coasters I've ridden. I've done this type of video so many times before. I have 10 videos on my channel ranking the coasters I've ridden. So yeah, I like to update you a lot on that. Since the off season is unfortunately here, I've gotten all the credits that I will get this year. So it's time to evaluate my top 10 coasters I've ridden. I didn't do a video like this after I recently went back to Kings Island, so maybe this is a bit of an update for some people. But the thing that makes this video unique is that I'm also going to be looking at what my top 10 was a year ago, at this point last year. I'm going to be talking about why things changed, what makes certain coasters top 10 worthy, and just brief explanations for every spot. I gained 96 credits this year, which is a very good amount of credits, I think. I had 124 last year, and I now have 220, so I was at least fairly close to doubling it. That means my top 10 last year was the top 8% of coasters I've ridden, but this year my top 10 is the top 4.5% of coasters I've ridden. That means it's almost twice as hard to make my top 10 this year. Something else I should mention quickly is that I revisited 4 of the parks this year that I did last year, those being Dollywood, Hershey Park, Cedar Point, and Kings Island. Now it's time to compare the rankings. First, we'll start off with the end of last year, 2020. At number 10, I had the Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood, which is not still in my top 10. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it to Kennywood this year, but hopefully next year. So the Phantom's Revenge ranks number 31 for me now. So yeah, it dropped 21 spots. I don't know if I'm dropping it unfairly, but the more I think about it, the more I remember the ride having a couple really good airtime moments, and that was it. It had some intense turns, but it wasn't really my thing. At number 9, I had Hydra at Dorney Park, which is also not still in my top 10. It's now my number 23. The reason this dropped 13 spots is I just rode a bunch of other coasters I thought were better. I mean, it is a B&M floorless coaster, so that was bound to happen. I love this ride's unique elements first drop, and hopefully I can get back to Dorney sometime soon, as I did not in 2021. At number 8, I had Ride of Steel at Six Flags Darien Lake, which missed my top 10 this year for the first time since I first rode it in 2016. It now ranks number 22, so it dropped quite a bit by 14 spots. I've ridden a lot more quality coasters this year. Darien Lake never even opened in 2020, so this was my first time riding it since 2019. It was pretty slow this season, I will say that. It's by far the worst of the 2 Ride of Steel clones, at least by my experience. The other one ranks at the number 13 spot, so this year wasn't very good for this ride, but hopefully next year it'll start to go faster again. At number 7, I had Iron Rattler at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. This missed my top 10, but still ranks in my top 15 at the number 14 spot. I plan on re-riding it in 2023, so I'm excited for that. This might have the best RMC drop. It's so good. Even though it doesn't have tons of elements, it's just an amazing coaster. It's my third least favorite RMC, but it's still an incredible ride. I loved it. We'll see if it moves up in 2023, but considering how much I've ridden this year, I think it's pretty good that it only moved down 7 spots. At number 6, I had Orion at Kings Island. Funny enough, this still ranks number 6 for me. During this past season, I dropped it in my rankings to around number 15 or number 14, and what I needed was to get back on it again. I did that in October, and it's now back up to number 6. It's an incredible world-class coaster. It's my favorite Giga coaster, and I've now ridden all 5 in North America, so that says a lot. I'll talk about it more in a bit. At number 5, I had Maverick at Cedar Point. This ride actually moved up in my rankings. I'll reveal that in a little bit. The rides I had above it just got worse for me, and Maverick wasn't really running better for me this year. I guess it was more fun riding with a few friends, so it moved up. At number 4, I had Skyrush at Hershey Park. Unfortunately, this was the biggest drop-off of the year. It dropped 22 spots all the way down to my number 26. Honestly, the ride was just painful this time. It has some awesome airtime moments, but the restraints do kind of ruin the airtime for me. And the first turn literally almost broke my back. That was actually terrifying. So yeah, if it wasn't for last year's rides, this wouldn't be in my top 30, but hey, it's still the craziest ride I've ever ridden. At number 3, I had Diamondback at Kings Island. You'll see where this now ranks in just a short bit, but I wasn't sure if I was going to make it to Kings Island this year. At one point, I just accepted it, but When I did a chore around the house one time without being asked, my mom said to me, "You just want to go to Kings Island." And honest to God, I wasn't even thinking about going to a park. I just did that to help out. And then I kept saying I want to go to Kings Island as a joke, and she eventually randomly said we were going to Kings Island. So the lesson for today is do something for other people. Maybe somehow down the road, it'll come back in your favor. At number 2, I had Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point, which still ranks at the number 2 spot. The ride that was above it dropped below Steve. However, Steve didn't move up. It stayed at number 2. But this was even better this year too. The airtime is way stronger than I can remember. It seems to get better every single year, which is awesome. Hopefully, it'll just keep getting better. And at number 1, I had Lightning Rod at Dollywood. This has dropped a couple spots to number 3. The steel retrack and cutting of the trees has made the ride slightly worse. The scenery being gone is honestly worse than the track because the new track doesn't even feel that different, just a little smoother. But yeah, either way, Steve is better because of just how insane it ran this year. Alright, so now I'm going to give my top 10 for this year. For some of these, I'm not really going to talk nearly as much as others, just so you know. So let's get into this year's. Number 10 is Fury 325 at Carowinds. I expected this to be in my top 5. It wasn't, but that's fine. It's still awesome. Number 9 is Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion. Another one I expected to be slightly higher, but I wasn't too surprised it ranks where it does. Number 8 is Twisted Cyclone at Six Flags Over Georgia. Yet another new coaster to make my top 10. There's so many of them, which is part of the reason the list is so different from last year's. Another reason is because of coasters just being way better. An example of that at number 7 is Millennium Force at Cedar Point. I did it in the back a bunch at first. It was better. But then I did it in the front and it was insane. It's definitely a front row ride. So good. At number 6 is Orion at Kings Island, which like I said still ranks at number 6. Every element on it was even better than I remember, and considering I put another ride above it, it really should rank at number 7 if it ran the same, but it didn't. It got better. And once again, yes, it is my favorite Giga coaster. Number 5 is where Diamondback at Kings Island comes in. It was worse this year for sure. I think the reasoning isn't because of the ride itself, but because of how many other B&M hypercoasters I've ridden since then. The airtime on Diamondback seemed so unique last year. It's still elite floater, but not as good as last year. Of course, it's still in my top 5 though, so it's still incredible. Number 4 is Maverick at Cedar Point. This moved above it because I just had more fun on it this year. Diamondback was also worse. Both of those coasters made these two rides swap in my rankings. Both are awesome, and I can't wait to see where they fall next year. Number 3 is Lightning Rod at Dollywood. I already talked about this. It's a little worse, but still incredible. Number 2 is Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. I also already talked about this. There's not much else that needs to be said about Steve. I think it's already been said by most enthusiasts out there. And number 1 is Velocicoaster at Universal Island of Adventure. It's a new coaster, so it wasn't on the list last year. I've talked about this ride enough, I think. It's the perfect coaster. It's a masterpiece. It's beautiful. So 4 out of the current top 10 are new credits, and 5 of them were in the top 10 last year. It looks a whole lot different to last year, and it'll just keep getting different. I think I'm going to wrap this video up here, so let me know how your list has changed over the past year. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you later.